Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Happy Friday. Hopefully everyone is having a great Friday out there so far. Let's see who we have in the chat today. So far we have Aaron, Storm Guy, Rebel, Pete, Caleb, Proxy, as well as Marcus and everyone else who's in here who I may have forgotten to welcome, or maybe you're just watching and may not be chatting. I'm glad to have you in here for yet another live stream. Jefferson, welcome to the stream as well. And yeah, let's go ahead and switch on over to our main scene. Everything should be good. Let's see. I didn't double check anything, so the chances were high that the one time I don't double check, things would be incorrect. But it seems like everything's right. Yep, correct date. You'd be surprised how many times I forget what date it is. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about the potential for severe storms over the next few days. I'll also, of course, be talking about these storms currently in Montana. They don't seem really over the top. We could see a tornado or two, but even classic looking supercells today like this looks like a classic eagle split supercell, especially classic for Montana standards. Not really rotating a whole lot today. Not a lot of good tornado ingredients out there, so despite how healthy this storm looks, reflectivity-wise, the velocities are not correlating to that strong of an area of rotation. Now, it could still be rotating towards the surface. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a bit of weak surface or near surface rotation with this. If there is a chaser on this, probably is going to have rotation with it. I mean, it's a hook echo still, so I imagine it is rotating to some extent, but probably, not as much as you would think it would be. If you take a look at this on, like an enhanced risk day in Oklahoma, you're going to think, yeah, that's about to drop a tornado, right? Yeah, well, we're not in Oklahoma. This is Montana, so the area of rotation is likely very, very weak with that, but if I were on that, I'd be flipping out. You already know, so hopefully a chaser scoring a really good looking wall cloud or mesocyclone on that storm. We have a chance for some isolated severe storms back out here in Wyoming as well as back out into northeast Colorado. But overall, everything should stay pretty far and few between out here across Wyoming, Colorado, and the rest of the U.S. The area where our most organized region for severe storms will be is on the east side of our enhanced risk. So I actually didn't realize it till now, but these storms are nearing the slight risks. So they're almost done with the enhanced risk. There's only a very small sliver of your enhanced risk of severe weather that remains. I'd say probably that's ought to be a little bit less than half of your enhanced risk that remains in place here. for these storms to still track through. So definitely could see some large hail, upwards of 3 inch in diameter, 70-mile-an-hour winds, and definitely could still see a spin-up tornado or two. I was going to cover this live today. I was going to start up a stream at 2 o'clock and cover it till about 7. Do a good 4-hour lengthy coverage stream, but they ended up dropping the 5% tornado risk. So I was like, you know what, if they lost confidence in things producing tornadoes, not much is probably going to happen today. And we haven't seen a single tornado warning so far in Montana. So glad we didn't spend 4 or 5 hours covering a risk that's barely, been tornadic. But still, if you're up in Montana or any of the severes, just make sure you're away from doors and windows. Thankfully, no main tornado warnings just yet today. Last night, I believe it was, actually, I think it was the night before last night. I don't know. It was it was somewhere over the last 36 hours. Like I said, I lost track of time. But we had like literally a violent water spout off the coastline of Corpus Christi. I want to say it was like last night or sometime yesterday. We had a very violent water spout right across like this area right in here. I mean, we're talking about rotation of like 200 miles per hour. So you're talking about a mid to high end EF4 VROT that was east of Corpus Christi, and it was moving to the east. So what happened was, right as it moved offshore, I'm talking like right offshore, like right in here, is when it started to produce a very intense to violent water spout. And thankfully it was moving east, so we didn't see any tornado warning. And then the night before that, we actually did get an overnight PDS tornado warning, I believe yesterday morning. Yeah, so last night, that's right. So last night we got that violent water spout off the coastline of Corpus Christi. And then yesterday morning, towards like 2 to 3 a.m., we had a PDS tornado warning. I forgot exactly where it was, but I know it was somewhere out near San Antonio or somewhere generally in this area. We had a PDS tornado warning. It was a brief but pretty strong tornado that occurred the other day, or I should say very early yesterday morning. I had to get my timing right there. Had to get my timing correct. So let's go over some SPC outlooks. I'll get rid of all those radar sites for you. So for today, we've got a enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 for severe weather up here in Montana. That includes a quite large 2% chance for tornadoes. Damaging winds could be upwards of 70, maybe even a gust of 75 miles per hour. Speaking of wind gust, yesterday we had a wind gust measured at 86 miles per hour from a downburst west of Minneapolis, Minnesota. There was a very destructive, damaging winds measured in a town west of the Twin Cities in south central Minnesota. Hail today going to be the biggest issue, and like I said, the enhanced risk, it is starting to wrap up, but we'll probably still see some hailstones of 2 to 3 inch in diameter across portions of south central Montana into probably central Montana as well. Then going into tomorrow, we do have a slight risk for severe weather across much of the same area: Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, even into extreme northeast Colorado, under another slight risk for severe storms tomorrow. Tornado risk, relatively the same, 2% tornado risk across the board, going from Montana down to Nebraska. I do think today posed a higher tornado risk than what tomorrow will pose. Damaging winds will be one of the biggest issues, about 70-mile-per-hour winds, and then some very large hail. Large hail will be the biggest issue. So very large hail, damaging winds, and then can't rule out a spin-up tornado for tomorrow, but hail will be the main story, potentially up to about 2.5 inch in diameter hail for tomorrow. Day 3, much of the same area, under a slight risk for severe weather. Montana, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, North Dakota, under a slight risk for severe storms, level 2 out of 5. The tornado risk obviously can't go out that far to day 3, so if you just take a look at the day 3 risk there, so that's just a generalized 15% chance, no significant, just a generalized 15% chance for severe storms. Probably will see a significant hail risk introduced, I imagine, by the time we get to the day 1 outlook here on day 3, which that is going to be for, Sunday. That's for Sunday's risk. Then going into Monday, you'll never guess it, South Dakota, Nebraska, under the risk for severe storms again. but this time actually shifting a little east into portions of central, southeast, southwest Minnesota, even into extreme west central Wisconsin, northwest Iowa, north central Iowa, under that day 4 slight risk for severe weather. That is new. We did not have a day 5 outlook for severe storms, so they just introduced this day 4 outlook for severe storms, and it doesn't stop there. We've got a day 4 and a day 5 risk for severe weather out here. This is Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado. I will keep an eye on this one. There is a chance we have a little bit more of an elevated tornado risk here, maybe on the border of Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, but I'm not really interested in it tornado-wise. Day 6, that is the one I'm most interested in. That's the one where I start to think we could see a few tornadoes on this day. Out of the next 5 days, this is the only day where I'm thinking we could actually see more than 2 or so tornadoes. And this would be on Wednesday, June 18th. What in the tornado warning? Yeah. Where? Oh, hi, Colorado. So that is northeast Colorado. I mean, it's a tornado warning. Don't get me wrong. I don't see much being there. Probably for the potential of a land spout, if I had to guess. Yep, so the special weather statement was issued for land spouts. So the tornado warning may be because a land spout has previously already touched down or may be imminent across this area. Regardless, we could see a tornado at any moment here, just to the south of Hudson in northeast Colorado. Yeah, okay. I don't know why weather-wise. Yeah, well, now it's sending me to this one. I don't know why weather-wise sent me to the one in southeast Wyoming. This is a much better visual of it. Actually, 2 areas of rotation, so a lot better view there. Now I can easily see why they issued that tornado warning. I'm not sure why weather-wise brought me all the way to this radar site, not the one that's literally like 25, 30 miles to the southeast of the actual tornado warning. So both of those good areas of rotation. I wouldn't be shocked if we get another tornado warning just extending for this area of rotation, and the possibility of another spin-up tornado. So if you're in that tornado warning, make sure you're in your safe spot. Again, this is east of Brighton in northeast Colorado, and another area of rotation here along I-76 to the southwest of Hudson. So two mesocyclones, 2 areas of rotation, probably trying to drop tornadoes right along the I-76 corridor here. Exiting the let's see, northern metro of Denver. So that's east of Brighton in northeast Colorado. Back to our outlooks, though. So this is your day 6 outlook here for Wednesday. Like I was saying before, we got that tornado warning. I think day 6 is going to be our primary threat for all severe weather hazards. Possibly the chance for a couple tornadoes. It really comes down to the trough's timing and intensity. We went over this on our last live stream, how the GFS was very, very aggressive, showing a probable tornado outbreak going on into Tuesday or Wednesday. And the Euro and the GEM, the Canadian, both were in complete disagreement. The Canadian barely had a trough. The Euro had a much weaker trough, and the GFS wanted like a near tornado outbreak. And guess what has happened? The GFS has downtrended back to the Euro and the Canadian. So that's why 2 days ago, when I was last live, I told you guys, I said I wouldn't be so sure about this being a prolific tornado threat. I would count more on the Euro and the Canadian because it was 2 versus 1. So if we take a look at our models here, you'll see the new GFS definitely backed off on that trough occurring across portions of Nebraska, Iowa. A lot weaker, but still a really subtle trough, and honestly that's the type of trough you want for maybe a more discrete mode. Now I haven't looked at your wind vectors or anything like that, but I imagine things are probably going to initiate quite linear if we get a good negatively tilted trough like that. And that's actually not that weak, to be honest with you. That's a pretty good trough. You could see that newest 18Z backed off a little bit on the intensity, but that's a pretty good trough. I imagine the lower level response Let's go one more frame. Yeah, not a bad lower level response either. So I could definitely see this being a tornado threat across eastern Iowa, northeast Missouri, southern Wisconsin, and a good chunk of central and northern Illinois. Maybe also even into where that broader area of weaker jet stream is up in northern Michigan, southwest Ontario. Could see a couple instances of severe weather, maybe even a tornado or two that far to the north. So we'll keep an eye on it as time progresses, see which way things trend. But right now, the Euro does have a weaker trough, but it is still a decent enough trough to produce the threat for all severe weather hazards. Not as much of a tornado threat with the Euro's solution, but still would be probably one of our biggest tornado threats over the next 5 days. And then the Canadian model run actually more in line with the GFS. So I do think we will have the opportunity for some severe weather across mainly Illinois, eastern Iowa, northeast Missouri, southern Wisconsin for Wednesday. And you can see here on the SPC's outlook, that's exactly where they have that 15% highlighted. Eastern Iowa, northeast Missouri, much of Illinois, and actually a pretty good chunk of Wisconsin as well. So I do believe we could see quite the threat for severe storms unfold with that. Of course, the tornado threat is going to be something we don't know until day of, but just looking at it from our models right now, I would most likely say that we're going to have probably a clustered mode. I wouldn't say a discrete mode or a linear mode. I would probably go with the in-between. Probably going to get a bit of a messier, clustery mode out of this threat, considering your trough, at least on some of these models, isn't the most well-rounded and amplified, as well as not as strong as what other troughs have been earlier this year. And then after that gets out of our hair on Wednesday, we move into Thursday. We continue this very, very large ridging pattern here. This is what we call ridge riders. This is where your troughs ride the northern side of your ridge. And typically it's across the northern plains. That's why we've seen severe threat after severe threat after severe threat for the last week, if not more than a week, across South Dakota and Nebraska. And that's going to continue for the next 5-6 days here. And then even beyond that, you can see this going on into Friday. We continue with that ridge riding pattern. North Dakota into portions of far south central Canada, under the gun for severe storms there. But it gets so far north to the point where it is into North Dakota and southern Canada. So it's outside of a good chunk of the U.S. That main severe threat would be located across this portion of your trough, which is in extreme north central portion of the U.S. into a better chunk of southern Canada. And we'll continue to see this pattern where we just keep seeing ridge riders probably for the entire month of June. It started in early May, almost actually 2 weeks ago at this point, and it's going to keep going for the whole month of June. Just consistent ridge rider after ridge rider after ridge rider across the north central plains. So not really good for prolific tornado outbreaks or prolific tornado makers for very prolific tornado events. Normally it's a very large and classic negatively tilted trough. Not the case with any of these outside of maybe Wednesday. Wednesday looks like it could be a bit better of a negatively tilted trough, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. And they did extend that tornado warning, like I was anticipating, into Hudson in northeast Colorado. Both of those go for 12 more minutes, so just make sure you're in your safe spot. Could see a spin-up tornado or two out of either one of those very weak areas of rotation crossing the I-76 corridor right now. So, yeah, it's going to lead to a lot of flooding, a lot of chances for severe weather, and definitely the chance for a couple spin-up tornadoes. Could even see the isolated mesoscale accident with a random strong tornado in one of the northern states here, Colorado, Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa. You never know where a mesoscale accident could happen, where an outflow boundary and a sustained supercell end up meeting. So we'll keep an eye for any mesoscale accidents, but the environment not very favorable for those mesoscale accidents. Typically those happen in Texas, like it did in early June, where we have a bunch of influx of very high dew points and very high temperatures as well, which allows for a lot of instability, and also a day where you have minimal cloud cover and you get a lot of outflow boundaries from like maybe an overnight MCS. We saw that 2 or 3 times in Texas in the overnight hours. And this setup, just none of these setups scream mesoscale accidents, but just pointing it out there. We had it this morning, or rather last night out there off the coastline of Texas. Thank goodness, off the coastline into the Gulf. And then yesterday morning we had another mesoscale accident in south central Texas. So who's to say it can't happen again? But you just got to keep an eye on things. In June and July, they sneak up very, very quickly out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, you could go from a slight risk to a moderate risk for damaging winds, or you could easily see a spin up strong tornado. Yeah, but none of these look like prolific tornado makers to me. None of these look like very prolific tornado makers. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on Wednesday right here. You see that supercell composite quite a lot larger and a little bit higher over Illinois into eastern Iowa, northeast Missouri, maybe even into southern Wisconsin there. So definitely could pick up on a few tornadoes being a possibility across this region going on into Wednesday, depending on exactly how that trough materializes and how strong it is. Thursday, that's probably going to be more of, of an MCS. I could just tell. This is really, really good northwesterly flow. This is really, really good northwesterly flow. So we're just going to see lines of severe storms just ride this. This is a good derecho pattern right here, actually. Do you have a lot of instability? Yeah, you do. That is a good derecho setup right there. You've got an embedded shortwave trough, very fast moving, thanks to a very elongated, positively tilted trough with an enhanced belt of flow north of that trough ejection. And then you get a lot of instability on the axis of both of those mixed in with a very linear mode due to how fast storms are moving. You've got yourself a good derecho setup from Nebraska all the way into northwestern Missouri there on Thursday. Probably won't happen. If we take a look at the Euro, completely different scenario. But that's how we see derechos, or very strong MCSs this time of year. So keep an eye on that going towards the latter half of this week. So just to do a quick overview of this, I know I've been kind of all over the place, but I gotta be honest, first time I'm looking at models in like the last 30 hours as well. So I'm just kind of doing an analysis on it as I go. So today is Friday, that enhanced risk for hail across Montana. Going into tomorrow, we'll have the same chance, hail, damaging winds, spin-up tornado across Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska, West South Dakota. Sunday, that pushes probably a little bit more east, Montana, Colorado, North Dakota, South Dakota, maybe into western Minnesota on Sunday. Then going into Monday, that should push even further into Minnesota, Wisconsin, maybe Iowa as well, also across the northern plains into Nebraska. So chance for severe storms there. Tuesday, that should be mainly Kansas, Nebraska. Mainly Kansas, Nebraska for Tuesday. Wednesday, that pushes into Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, northeast Missouri. That could be a bit more of a tornado risk there. Thursday, that's going to be the first day where we start to see this strong northwesterly flow pattern setup. You could see that ridge. Watch that ridge. This is your ridge right here. See right here on Wednesday, it's not that strong of a ridge, right? Definitely some troughing right in here, but not a very potent, not a very present high pressure out here. Unlike off the coastline of the Carolinas, very, very present high pressure right there. You can see if we go on into Thursday, that becomes a lot more present, a lot more obvious of a high pressure there. A lot more obvious of a high pressure across portions of Arizona, New Mexico, southern Colorado. And that allows for this trough that is in the Pacific Northwest on Wednesday. You'll see the trough kind of pushes it north, right? Now, instead of your trough looking like this, you don't have a trough looking like that. Because of that ridge, it's now pushed up and back down. And that creates that ridging pattern, the ridge rider I was talking about. Very favorable for long-lived damaging wind bags. So that would be the area I'd keep an eye on Thursday, Friday, and it looks like that continues also into Saturday, Sunday, and then finally into Monday. That ridge breaks up a little bit. It looks like, what the heck is going on there? You almost get into an omega block, nearly into an omega block, but it's too large, way too large of a block pattern there. So it's not a classic omega block, but you nearly get into an omega block on this model run. Wow, yeah, that's going to lead to a lot of uncertainty in the models, yeah. Because the Euro definitely doesn't have that happening, and the Canadian doesn't either, so it's only the GFS that has that, so... is this GFS out far enough? Not yet. Yeah, but this is going to allow for a very prolific setup for damaging windbags. When you have all this instability just sitting here with northwesterly flow like that, I mean, man, that is just a setup for MCS mayhem. All the way from Montana, southern Canada, all the way into possibly as far as western NC, western Virginia. And that would start right after our trough leaves on Wednesday. So literally the next day, right into Thursday, even Thursday morning, would be your first threat in an MCS. And you can see the GFS indeed does develop an MCS there in Nebraska, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri. That continues through the entire night, forms at 21Z Thursday, and doesn't dissipate until about 06 to 09Z Friday morning. So good solid, what is that? And I learned about 9 to 12 hours of a damaging windbag. So definitely a really nice setup for wind. Definitely doesn't look like, again, I don't see much of a prolific tornado threat. I don't see any tornado outbreak caliber setups here anytime, even remotely close to the near future or even the far future, going all the way to the end of June. I don't see any setup that would be favorable for such an event. Again, Wednesday... that trough, it's a good trough. It's definitely a good trough for severe storms, but for a prolific tornado maker, definitely not the trough that's going to do it. But it could allow for some more clustered to semi-discrete storms across Illinois, and that would have a chance at a couple tornadoes. But even then, you could see your environment. I mean, it's not overly favorable. You don't have a lot of wind shear, not much more than about 100 to 150, 0 to 3 kilometer SRH there. So outside of Wednesday, just all days from now till Wednesday are all going to be mesoscale days. Which again leads to very low confidence in any tornado threat and likely don't have the ingredients for much of a tornado threat over the next few days. So we'll see how things evolve across the U.S. for this ridge riding pattern that we're moving on into. I want to go back to weather-wise here. Still 2 tornado warnings just for 3 more minutes in place there. Take a look at these storms. 2-inch hail, 70-mile-an-hour winds on both of them. Probably an outflow boundary on that. I'd have to imagine. Yeah, definitely a very clear-cut outflow boundary there on that newest frame. Very clear outflow boundary on that northern storm. So that's likely going to create some big-time cool pulling for this one. I highly doubt this is going to be much of, if any, of a tornado threat. I would be shocked if that's even rotating, because once you get a very cold pocket of cool air from that, which is what an outflow boundary is. It's a pocket of just rain hitting the surface and spreading out in all directions, and it creates an outflow boundary. And it's obviously the most common in like hailstorms and very heavy rainstorms, because things that produce higher moisture and heavier rain have a better chance of producing outflow boundaries. And that has an outflow boundary directly in front of this storm here, so shocked they have a Tor Possible tag on that right now. I would be blown away. I mean, there's barely even velocities on this thing. I would be astonished if that is able to produce anything more than some isolated damaging winds and small hail. I'd be very shocked if that is able to rotate one bit. This could rotate a little bit better because it does have that outflow boundary. Outflow boundaries can enhance inflow in thunderstorms, but not much velocities. Like I said, we don't have the best tornado environment out here. Not really good for tornadoes. Let me think. There was one other main thing I was wanting to... Oh, yeah, that. The tropics. We got another AOI here in the Eastern Pacific, and we do have a tropical storm out here I don't know the name of. Dahlia? Wow, we're already on... that's the fourth named storm. Fourth named storm there. Doesn't look... Yeah, this is old. I was about to say... Dahlia? Okay, thank you. Let me go to here. There we go. Gotta go to Tropical Tidbits for the latest satellite. For some reason, weather-wise is very, very far behind. That looks a lot better this morning. This is what it looked like this morning. Very, very broad circulation with quite robust convection around it. And now, watching that into the afternoon and then to where we are right now, even can see some hot towers going up around the centralized low pressure right there. Really, really well-formed low pressure. Really organized tropical storm right there. I have seen worse-looking hurricanes. I have seen significantly worse-looking hurricanes than that, so that looks really good. We did have a tropical system slam China. I don't know where it went to now. Now, I think it's still going right towards China. Pretty sure. Just kind of been dancing out there very slowly over the last 3 days. 3-4 days. Remember, we do cover the Western Pacific as well. So if there is a major typhoon, we will go over it. That's just a... Oh my goodness. What do we get? Like... Maybe that was just... I'm betting that was them just canceling the warnings. Yeah, okay, that was them just canceling the warnings. I was gonna say, what's happening over here in the US, man? They're just canceling the warnings. So no tornado warnings in effect. I do want to talk about the Atlantic for a minute, because there is the chance for a named storm going towards the middle, or rather the very latter half of June. Not much of a signal anymore, but you could see there is going to be a low pressure that forms here. Possibly a quick, weak low pressure that forms... Shoot. I forgot the name of that place. Not the area I was thinking. I know that's the Yucatan Peninsula. I'm gonna have to re-memorize these areas. Yeah, near Honduras. That's what I was thinking. Jeez. I was correct. So that's just to the... Probably just east of Honduras. More of into the... Forgot you again. I feel like this has a different name. We'll go with Southern Caribbean. I'm gonna have to start remembering everything out here in... You know, the Atlantic and the Caribbean and the Gulf. Have to remember what all these areas are. Of course, I'm really good with the Gulf coastline, but I gotta remember all these that I only mention 3 to 4 months out of 12 months. Yeah, Bay of Campeche, but is that actually it? Or Campeche? I've heard it both ways. Let me see if that's it. Yeah, that's the Southwest Gulf. That's the Bay of Campeche. Or Campeche, whichever one. We're going to go with Campeche. I might have to look up a pronunciation on that. Man, you know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about if I point it out. So, yeah, just east of Honduras, we could get a quick low pressure to spin up. I don't think it would be a named storm or anything or an invest, but just some rain. But there is a chance if it stays north of Honduras, you can see it definitely has some vorticity. Speaking of vorticity. Yeah, you can definitely tell. It has an area of spin with it as it slowly propagates off to the northeast, but it never really gets there. It doesn't look like it's going to get to a named storm. You can see the Euro also has it. Not as well defined. The Euro, matter of fact, the Euro really has it spinning up in the Eastern Pacific and then moving into the southwest Gulf, but not producing anything. So I do think it's mainly going to be a rainmaker. I don't see it being a named storm personally. Yes, there's a very small chance it becomes a named storm, and if it does, I think it would actually be the Eastern Pacific. I think it would actually be a named storm in the Eastern Pacific. You could see here they have a 30% chance of development. So I don't think it would be a named storm in the Atlantic or the Caribbean or the Gulf. I think if it does become a named storm, which there's a low chance, 30% right now by the NHC, it would probably be in the Eastern Pacific there. Probably close to June 17th, maybe June 18th, Tuesday into Wednesday. It has a chance to spin up. And then if it does try to spin up in the Southwest Gulf as well, that would be closer to June 19th, probably overnight on the 19th into the morning of the 20th. For some reason, the Canadian stalls it out, and that would probably be a tropical storm. 1003 low. Let's see that would probably be a borderline tropical storm there. So once you see yellow on this color table, that's getting pretty much 2 tropical storm status, and this is still light green. So getting close to being a tropical storm on the Canadian model run. But that's only because it stalls out over the Gulf. But outside of that, there's not much activity. Just it's going to rain across this portion here. This area, the Yucatan Peninsula, Honduras, into eastern Mexico, you're going to get some rain out of this low pressure. And if it does spin up into a tropical storm, which I find very difficult to, but there is a chance, it would probably be on the southwest of the Yucatan Peninsula, over southeast Mexico is where that would happen. If we do see any tropical development out of this system. Dumb old browser source. Which one's down now? It's the SPC site. Could go ahead and take a look at some ensembles. Ensembles are your best friend. Remember that. Remember that with forecasting. Ensembles, you gotta show them, especially if we're forecasting for tropical activity. Ensembles, absolute must. So we're going to go about, give or take, 200-ish hours out. And that's a pretty good signal there for a low. Not a good signal for a tropical storm, but that is a good signal for a low pressure forming here. And then moving up to the northwest. Only like 1 or 2 of those ensembles actually has it being a named storm. Take a look at the Euro ensembles. Euro definitely sparks it up a little bit better in the Eastern Pacific. Definitely a little bit of a better chance for a tropical storm there. And then it moves up into the Southwest Gulf. So we'll see. There's really 3 to 4 different scenarios. Most likely case scenario, it becomes a low pressure, just a tropical rain, just some tropical rain there southeast of Honduras. It moves over Honduras, over the Yucatan Peninsula, and then moves up into the Southwest Gulf and then on into Mexico or southern Texas, never becoming a depression, never becoming an invest, never becoming a named storm. Another scenario takes that same track, tries to spin up into a tropical storm, possibly could succeed at being an invest. I really don't see it being much more than that. That's your second scenario. Third scenario, moves into the Eastern Pacific, becomes a named storm there, then moves into Mexico, and then back up into southern Texas or far northeast Mexico. And then another scenario is it moves into the Eastern Pacific, doesn't form, and takes that same track. All tracks lead to this portion, the Southwest Gulf. All 4 different scenarios between our ensembles and our deterministics lead to the Southwest Gulf. And there's only like the 2 ensembles from the Euro, 1 ensemble from the GFS, and then the Canadian deterministic that actually spin it up into a very weak tropical storm. Personally, I don't see it happening. Like I said, there's a chance, but in my opinion, that chance is very, very low. So, not expecting to see much. If for some reason, let's just go ahead and pull out the Euro ensembles here. Ooh, such an active hurricane season. The only reason why I did that is because I keep seeing It's getting on my nerves. I keep seeing people talking about a hyper active season, and two specific YouTubers who are talking about a bunch of activity in the main development region going into the end of July, or the end of June rather, beginning of July. There's still nothing there. There's still nothing there towards the end of June. This is Caleb's birthday, June 27th. So, yes, we're going to see tropical development. Yes, we're going to see multiple hurricanes, likely close to 8 or 9. Yes, we're going to see multiple major hurricanes, probably 3 to 4. Are we going to see anything in June or early July? Likely not. If we do, it's going to be weak, it's going to be brief, and it's not going to be much of a whisper. I mean, really, we're just going to, say, hey, first name storm this season. Okay, that's about it. Because it's probably not going to be much. If it ends up doing anything, it would be a quick rainstorm for like maybe the Southwest Gulf or maybe the near Honduras. I don't see it, I don't see the main first name storm being a big one like Beryl last year. I know that was a second name storm, but still. So if we do get a named storm anytime soon, if June or July, I think the best chance is the Southwest Gulf and the Western Caribbean. Like I said, if we somehow manage to get a spin up tropical storm there, it's going to be a brief, very weak, barely pushing tropical storm status. But August, late August is when things will start to pop off. That's what I'm thinking, late August. So we probably wouldn't, I don't expect much in June, the rest of June. I don't expect much towards at least early July. Maybe it's too far out, but who knows? Maybe something could spin up towards mid-July, late July. But really, I think August, especially late August, is when things will pop off. Late August, and then the whole month of September into early October, things should be quite active. I feel like this is going to be a season where we don't see much until it pops off. And then when it pops off, it's going to pop off. And it won't stop popping off for about a month. That's what I think. I don't think we're going to see like we did last year where there's a tropical storm here. Boom, random Cat 5 hurricane in the Caribbean. Tropical storm here, tropical storm there. Then, 3 months after the first major hurricane, boom, major hurricane in the Gulf. I think once things go, that's when we're going to get all of our named storms. I think we're going to have like a month span of a very favorable pattern for tropical development. And once that happens, it's going to be quite haywire. But right now, it's all inactive. So please, if you're seeing anybody who's saying tropical storms or hurricanes possible anytime soon, especially for the rest of June, just ignore them. They're wrong, straight up, unless it's in the Eastern Pacific. But if they're like talking about the main development region here, there's not a single ensemble in this entire area that even has a low pressure forming into a tropical storm or anything. There's not even a whisper. There's way too much dust. Matter of fact, let's go look at all that dust. Let's go look at all the dust. I haven't looked at that this season. And I'm probably going to talk about that a lot this season. Shoot, I'll probably mention it in my videos about all the clickbait, because it's crazy in hurricane season. And look at all that dust, man. We are not getting anything in the main development region anytime soon. We need those dark blues. That's a lot of water vapor, a lot of humidity. And that's going to allow for tropical spin-ups, and we get full dry air in the main development region. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to try to sugarcoat my channel either. I do hype up things sometimes. I try my best never to clickbait, but there's specific YouTubers out there that I still see doing it. And they're still saying like tropical storm possible or hurricane possible. These are the same people who were saying a hurricane's possible in late May or early June, and then here we are mid-June, and they're still not even the first name of the season yet. First name storm of the season. So yeah, just a heads up out there, because I know people have a lot of anxiety about hurricanes. There's nothing imminent anytime soon. Nothing imminent anytime soon. And when the time comes, yes, we'll definitely be here and letting you know and start up our videos. Very frequent videos will occur this hurricane season. Probably going to slow down on the live streams, to be honest with y'all. We're probably going to start backing off a little bit from the live streams as we exit our primary tornado season and enter the kind of inactive phase between hurricane season and also our MCS season. So we're definitely going to be live still. You know, I'm not going to stop live streams altogether, but I want to get more videos out during hurricane season. Hurricane season and winter season, I love to do a lot of videos. And then during tornado season, I love to go live like almost on a daily basis. Tornado season it's just a lot easier. You know, during tornado events, there's so much more to cover and so much more analysis than here's white fluffy stuff falling from the sky or here's a hurricane 700 miles away from the US. Now, of course, this hurricane's near, and they also take so long. And you know, the average time between like the eastern main development region and the Gulf is like 7-8 days. So that's a lot of time. That's a lot of areas for uncertainty. There's a lot of things that change in 7 to 8 days. In the tropical wave that comes off of Africa, you know, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 8. Of course, I drew right into Florida. I apologize, Florida. But just use you as an example. Put a hypothetical system right into Western Florida. Oh, man. Not much, Sam. You missed the 2 tornado warnings Northeast Colorado. Went over all the severe threats, and now I'm talking about those 2 clickbait YouTubers again and just saying how we're not seeing much tropical development anytime soon. Again, I don't want to name those YouTubers because I'm not that type of person, but I'll keep fussing about them. I'll keep fussing about them. I'm not really fussing about those 2 specific people, by the way. It's just in general, don't listen to anybody who's saying a tropical storm's going to happen anytime soon. I'm not like specifically targeting those 2 people. Just in general, we're not expecting much tropical development, so please don't panic because I know there's a lot of hype about or rather about a tropical storm or a hurricane in the future. And that's how it is. Until that first name system comes, there's going to be a lot of people making videos about first name system possible, first hurricane possible, first AOI possible. And in reality, the main thing, even if you don't even want to listen to me and, you know, you may be tired of hearing me fuss, just look at this. This is the NHC. This is all you have to look at. You don't have to look at this ensemble and this deterministic and this deterministic, this one, and all these model runs here, and the favorability of the Gulf and all the dry air and everything. Just look here. Just look at the NHC. That's it. They do all that for you. They do all the ensembles, all the model runs, all the favorable conditions, all the overall patterns that we're going on into, and they put it into a simple map. Tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next week. And just like that, there you go. Now, I will say there is a little area highlighted. I don't know if it's still highlighted. Yeah, they still do have. See, so it is not impossible that we get an area of interest in the Southwest Gulf, the Bay of Campeche here. This is week 2, so I have to go to the CPC site to figure out. That's June 18th to the 24th. It is not entirely impossible that we see a quick spin up there. But like I said, there's a lot of different scenarios, and the NHC hasn't highlighted anything just yet. This is the Climate Prediction Center, which basically when they highlighted 20%, what that means is, hey, there's going to be a low pressure in this general area, and the environment may be a little bit favorable for a quick spin up low pressure. That's it. That doesn't mean, ooh, hurricane. 20% chance for major hurricane. No, that means a 20% chance just for some tropical development. And that actually is a 20% chance or less. That is 20% or less chance of a tropical depression forming. And then, of course, we do have the 40% in the Eastern Pacific still. And then in week 3, they keep that 40%. The Eastern Pacific is just going to continue to see tropical system after tropical system after tropical system. So, And again, it's very important to realize that a lot of the times when your Eastern Pacific is active, your Atlantic is not going to be as active. And then when your Atlantic is very active, your Eastern Pacific may slowly calm down because that's how our wind shear works. So, for instance, like right now, we probably actually, I could just let's go look at it. Let's go look at the northern. Let's look at the whole North America. Let's look at the whole continent here. Let's see. I don't think there's a really good way I could show wind shear, so we're going to have to size it down a little bit. I want to look at the whole continent. This. So, see, this is what we're in right now. Big time wind shear, just like this, goes over the U.S., back up in the northern Atlantic, and then another area of strong wind shear like this. And that's going to keep your main development region fully sheared and very dusty, too. You've got a lot of dry air. And notice there's not a lot of wind shear out here in the Eastern Pacific. And once the Atlantic starts to get active, you may see that flip. It may be the opposite. A lot of wind shear going into the Eastern Pacific down to South America, and a lot of wind shear over the central northern U.S., but maybe not as much wind shear over the main development region. So we'll see when that eventually happens, but right now it's just shear, 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 dry air, shear, all in the main development region in the Caribbean. And you can see that little area. Let me go back here. You can see a little pocket. I mean, it's just a little pocket of weaker wind shear across the Southwest Caribbean and the Yucatan Peninsula going into June 17th, 18th. And then into the Southwest Gulf, a little weaker wind shear there as well. And that could, that could help spin up a quick low pressure. But again, I don't expect us to get a named storm out of it. Which again leads me back to keep an eye out for the hype and the clickbait. Normally you can tell. Main thing is just during this hurricane season, number one source, always NHC, 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 NHC. All the time, and whenever you can check it. Whenever you see someone throw out a clickbait title of hurricane possible next week or tropical storm possible this week, NHC. See if they've highlighted an AOI and see what that probability is. When the time comes, we will start to see probabilities like this. 30% chance for tropical development. We'll start to see that pop up in the Atlantic eventually this hurricane season. And once that happens, then we can start talking about, tropical storm might be able to form. But right now, they haven't highlighted anything. The only AOIs we've seen right now, which is, if you didn't know, area of interest, the only one we saw was south of Bermuda. If I remember correctly, south of Bermuda might have been early May. I think it was early May we saw an AOI south of Bermuda. I remember an AOI out here that was a 10%, and then the next day it was a 0%. Now, yeah, I'm not saying we're not going to see tropical storms or hurricane this season. That's completely different. The Atlantic basin changes every single day. The favorability of it changes so frequently. So, right now we're just in a very unfavorable pattern, and it's not typical that we see a tropical storm or hurricane this time of year. Very, very rare we see a hurricane this time of year. Not impossible for a tropical storm, but very rare for a hurricane. A lot of the times we don't really start looking for a very active hurricane season to begin until August. That's when people start to really pay attention. August, and then especially September and into early October. The main time frame is mid-August all the way to mid-October. So mid-August, late August, early September, middle of September, late September, early October, mid-October. That's your full time frame. A good solid 2 months. A good solid month and a half to 2 months. That's when your Atlantic is typically the most favorable. And we'll see it flip up, believe me. Right now, it's very inactive, and a lot of dust and wind shear, but believe me, once we get to the peak, we're going to start seeing a lot less dry air and a lot less wind shear and a lot more spinny bits come off of Africa. Let me see. Yeah, I agree. We could definitely see a named storm in July. It's definitely possible. It's always a possibility. It's just not very, very common to see like a hurricane. Um, a named storm in June and a named storm in July, that's entirely possible. It's just not typical that they become hurricanes, and then especially like Beryl of last year, major Category 5 Hurricane Beryl in the Eastern Caribbean in the early portion in the middle of July broke records, completely broke records. And that's not going to happen again, probably for our generation, probably for the entire generation. We probably won't see that again for multiple decades. It's such a favorable pattern in late July, just completely, just crazy. It's just crazy. Or late June into mid July. We started seeing that favorable pattern in late June. There just wasn't much spinny bits. And then towards early July, we were like, well, now there's a signal for a tropical storm. And then tropical storm, before you know it, it went from little AOI 10%, AOI 70%, AOI 100%, tropical storm, Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3. And then we started talking about potentially getting to a Cat 4 as it approaches the Leeward Islands and the Lesser Antilles. And then before we knew it, it passed the Leeward Islands as Cat 4, and boom, there it was, Category 5 in the Eastern Caribbean. Crazy. So, yeah, we'll start up our tropical videos probably when the first AOI looks like it's either when the first AOI is designated or when I feel like we could start seeing the chance for an area of interest to be highlighted. So, yeah, but that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I will not see y'all tomorrow, and I probably won't see you Sunday. I've got 2 busy days. Saturday and Sunday, I am unfortunately busy. I've got a lot of stuff I need to do tomorrow, and then Sunday we have the first race in Mexico City on NASCAR, and I don't want to miss that, so I'll be sitting at my TV all day. And Monday I'll be back, so I'll be back with a live stream Monday. Hope to see you guys there. We'll talk about the threat for severe weather for Wednesday on Monday's live stream. And I appreciate the mods from my chat. I appreciate all you guys hanging out here and tuning in for an hour. Hold on, I gotta go quickly check that. We're gonna be late on our ending time, but I gotta go see this really quick. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Maybe I could still make it. Let me see. I ain't gonna make it. I gotta see that. Heat advisory in Alaska. There's a heat advisory in Alaska right now. I had to show you guys that. Thank you, Pete, for reminding me. It's hot in Alaska. What, 40 degrees? 85? I didn't think that was possible. They've got a special weather statement, too. Given only for 2 more minutes, but it's for heat. I'm shocked. I didn't even think Alaska could get that hot. Well, I will talk to you guys in Monday's live stream. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all you guys for watching. And again, next live stream will be on Monday. I'm going to take the weekend off, spend time with family tomorrow, get a lot of work done. And then Sunday, watch that NASCAR race that I've been looking forward to for the entire year, ever since it was announced mid last year. I've been looking forward to it for a whole year now. So again, thank you, mods, for mod chat. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Unfortunately, music's going to be cut off a little bit because I've rambled on a little bit too long. So I will see you guys in the next one. And yes, Ben, 87 degrees. That is hot, and especially for Alaska. Stay safe, watch severe weather. I'll see you guys on Monday. Goodbye. stay safe, watch severe weather, and I'll see you guys in Monday's live stream. Have a great rest of your